everybody, I'm Nikki D and you have found 5 Dog Farm. Today I wanted to make you something that takes me back to my childhood. My grandma taught me how to make stovetop pudding. I'm not talking about the kind in the box, I'm talking about homemade, and I used to really enjoy it. It was a big deal. I got to stand at the stove and whisk away, which is funny, the things you think are fun when you're little, but I thought it was quite the big deal. The one thing that I remember from doing that with Grams was her saying, you can't stop whisking, you've got to keep whisking, because the milk could stick so easily on the bottom of the pan. We didn't have gas at our home, we had electric. It wasn't until I moved out of my house that I discovered gas ranges. Love them to this day. Hopefully when we get the farmhouse done, I'm going to have 2 methods of cooking. We'll have the wood cook stove for the winter time. No way we can use that in the summertime. So I'd like to have a propane gas stove, and I'm going to get my gas back at some point in time. So that's exciting. In this case, we're getting rid of the stove top. We're going to do it in the Instant Pot. I'm so excited about this. A little less whisking, you still have to whisk, but there's a couple of little tricks. The first thing is you want to put your Instant Pot container in your fridge or freezer. You want to chill it. That way the milk isn't going to scorch. You've cooled this down. You're not cooking on any kind of a high temperature here, and I'll get to that in a minute. You're not using the lid, you're not pressure cooking. But you want to chill this. If you forget, pop it in the freezer. If you remember, put it in the fridge the night before. That's what I do. Also, you're going to want to get a spray bottle, or you can just drop some water in here, but you're going to want to have a little bit of water in your Instant Pot. We're not talking 1/4 of a cup, we're talking a little bit, spray bottle's worth. Those droplets will help the milk to not stick. So I'm going to get this out of my hands before I start to warm it up, and then, I show you burnt milk. So what does this take here? Now keep in mind, I do this on the fly. If I've forgotten something, an ingredient, I try to post it on the video, but go to the blog. You can find the recipe, you can print it, you'll have it in front of you. That's at www.5dog.farm, and you can just jump to recipe, you jump right down to the recipe, you print it up, you're set. So this is very simple and it tastes so good. So what you're going to want is 3/4 a cup of sugar. I use organic sugar, so it's got a little bit of color to it. 1/8 of a teaspoon salt. I happen to have pink Himalayan salt, so I'm color wheel here. I'm doing a lot of color. You want 2 whole eggs and then 1 yolk. Separate your whites. Now I don't like to waste anything, so what I do with my whites or my yolks, depending on what we're doing, is I put them in a separate container. And then I take my favorite method, some of you know this about me, I take my ice cube container and I will pour the egg white or whites into that ice cube container. The ice cube tray usually has approximately about a tablespoon measurement for each cube, which works out great. I do my pesto in that method, I put it in there. It's wonderful. So don't waste your egg whites, you can always use them later for another recipe down the road. So anyway, 2 whole eggs, 1 egg yolk, and 2 cups of milk. There's other components that you see sitting here. We'll get to those in a minute. That's going to be at the end, but that's what we need right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to whisk our eggs with our milk, our sugar, and our salt. Yeah, you just don't get away from the whisking, right? You got to do a little bit of that, but it's no big deal. Like I said, this just takes me way back. I want to kind of mess with the recipe and see if I can do chocolate. Mr. Blue Jeans likes butterscotch. I'm not really a fan, but he likes butterscotch. One of my favorites growing up was pistachio. Oh, I love pistachio pudding. I love pistachio ice cream, and I have a really good recipe for pistachio ice cream in storage, but I will make it someday for you guys. You'll get to see it when my stuff comes out of storage, which I think is coming up soon. So anyway, into here you're going to want to go ahead and pour your sugar and your salt and get that all mixed together. Pretty simple. There you go, mixed together. Now pour in your milk. If you want a creamier pudding, you can use half and half. I don't know that I would use whipping cream. I mean, you know, experiment. I'm all about experimenting. I mean, and I know people want to find a recipe, make it, and it's done, but I like to experiment. So if you don't want to experiment, just use milk. All right. So that's pretty simple. By Jove, I think we've got it. Now, one more thing I'm going to do here. There are two different ways that you can add some flavor to this. Obviously, I want to make vanilla pudding. So I'm popping in a half a vanilla bean split lengthwise. Kind of closed back up on me, but I did split it. There we go. So I'm throwing that in. If you don't have a vanilla bean available to you, which I don't always have that in my kitchen, at the end, when we're doing our last bit we also have some cornstarch to thicken everything, you'll put your extract in at that point. We don't want to cook down the extract, but the vanilla bean is fine. So, if you're using your vanilla bean, pop that in right now. Put all of this into your Instant Pot. All right, here is another caveat. I have all 3 Instant Pots, 3 quart, 6 quart, 8 quart, because I went nuts over the thing. 6 quart and 8 quart have a yogurt setting. You would want to set your yogurt setting and then let it do its thing. When it's done, it'll say yogurt or a semblance of letters that look like yogurt. I don't think it spells out the whole word. I can't remember now, but I think it's like YRGT or something like that. The 3 quart does not have a yogurt setting, but that's okay. Just hit keep warm. All we're trying to do is get your milk to about 160 degrees. And keep warm setting will do that as well. I found the coolest thing, and I had to show you guys. I found these really neat silicone lids. Again, we're not pressure cooking. We're merely warming the milk slowly to come up to the temperature we need. So I got these little silicone covers, and look, okay, we're done. Hit keep warm. It's gonna count down 15 minutes for me. I'll have if you're using a 6 or 8 quart, I'll have the instructions on how to use that on the recipe as well. So you can flip between the two, depending on what you have, 3, 6, or 8. So there we go. I'm not stirring, I'm not whisking. I can go do other things, which I'm going to do while this is counting down. So while I'm taking care of a few other things, we'll let this do its job, and we're going to come back and do the last bit of what it takes to make an amazing vanilla pudding. You're not going to believe this. I'll be right back. So here we are. I shut off my keep warm setting, or if you're using the yogurt setting, you shut that off. I am going to go ahead and do the next step, which is 3 tablespoons of milk, or half and half if that's what you're using. 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. You want to whisk those up. I'm just going to use the same bowl I'd used before, so we're going to whisk those up. I try to keep dish use down right now with our water situation of being, we import it. Our daughter Sam lives about 15 minutes from us, and right now because of our well situation, for those of you that don't know, we had our water tested and it's horrifying. We're importing until we rectify that situation, which is coming soon. So we go ahead and we get this whisked up, and you want to make sure to give a good whisk to the cornstarch and the milk, because you do not want lumps. So bear with me while I get this taken care of, because we are having this for dinner tonight. All right, so there we go. Now I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to open up the top here. I'm just in love with these. So nice. And you know what? I could just store, if I didn't have a lid for my pudding, I could just pop one of these on and store it in the fridge like that. Look, talk about tight seal. I don't care for plastic wrap. It's just, I just don't enjoy it. So I have some beeswax covers that I made that are in storage, and eventually you'll get to see those, and I'd like to show you how to make them as well. It's super simple, but for the meantime I had to get something, and I just love these silicone tops. Okay, so here we are with our pudding mixture, And I'm going to go ahead and pop this onto saute. You want saute less. If your pot shows not saute less, just keep poking it until the light shows up at saute less. So I'm going to put that mixture in right now. We're going to want to give it a good whisk. No lumps. There we go. We'll get this whisked up and get that cornstarch mixture all around in here to get it thickening. Setting it on the saute less is going to go ahead and get it cooked a little bit more and get it thickening up, which is exactly what we want. You're going to run it about 2 to 3 minutes, like I had said, keeping in mind to sort of stop. This is what I do. I kind of stop and look because you want to give it a minute to kind of relax because you're whipping up a frenzy to see if it's thickening. It takes, like I said, about 2 to 3 minutes to thicken. I've noticed it sort of depends on the day outside. Today is rather cold, a little bit humid. That might affect it setting up a bit. So just sort of go with your gut, follow your instinct. So while I'm doing this, I'm going to speed up the process and then we'll slow back down when it's time to finish up. Okay, we're almost there. You might have noticed, even though I sped up the time there, that I pulled my whisk up and waited. What I was doing was I moved away the bubbles and I was listening to hear a little bit of simmering going on. I'm gonna turn this off. I was listening for a little bit of simmering because I wanted to make sure we were getting the heat needed to start to thicken. And I did, because here we are. Now you're going to want to take your container out. I'm going to try to tip this so you can see it. It'll thicken up more so once we put it in the fridge to cool, but look at that. Doesn't that look great? Ooh, I'm getting a facial too. So last step is putting in your 3 tablespoons of butter. I just chopped it into hunks and you just plop this in. If you used half and half, which I've done in the past, I reduced the amount of butter. I put in 1.5 tablespoons of butter instead. So we get the butter mixed in here, all melted. We're going to fish out our vanilla bean, if I can find it. Well, I don't see it here. It's got to be somewhere in here. That's fine. And then the last thing that we'll need to do is run it. I found it. Run it through a sieve. So I'm going to let this cool for just a minute. I'm going to grab my sieve and we'll come back and take care of straining it out to get out any lumps that might have occurred during the cooking and the whisking. Be right back. All right, I had to take a second and find my strainer. Got it. So we go ahead and strain out our pudding to get rid of, can you hear that in the background? The guineas came up for a visit. Jamie's dogs, Piper and Charlie, are out in their kennel, and the guineas just love to come by and say hello to the livestock. The donkeys especially, they came up to Clyde the other day. I wasn't sure how Clyde was going to handle it. He's our resident donkey, him, his wife Bonnie, and their baby Parker. And he was pretty calm with them. He just sort of looked at them. I'm not sure if he was trying to size them up or what he was, intimidate them maybe. They weren't, guineas don't intimidate easily. They'll come running at you if you've got a vehicle. They will come running up at you. And there are times when, oh my gosh, I have some guineas, I think they dislike their friend standing next to them because I'll be in the vehicle kind of going slow because they're swarming, and one guinea will poke at the other one and make it run under the car, so they can be a little vicious. All right, so we have strained out our vanilla pudding, and it is a sight to behold. I'm just gonna put that right down there. Look at this, silky smooth. Oh, this is still steaming hot. I'm telling you, when I shut off the camera, I'm having a bowl. So that's it. Like I said, can you believe it? Are you gasping? Because I did when I first started playing with this. And I still gasp at this point. So what I was talking about earlier is playing with it. Maybe some chocolate chips in here, or for Mr. Blue Jeans, some butterscotch chips, or maybe chocolate and peanut butter. I don't know. I can tell you though, I'm going to mess with it, and we'll see how that comes out, but it's just beautiful and lush and delicious. Now I like to cover the top of my pudding when I put it in the fridge. Again, I don't use plastic wrap. I'm just using a bit of parchment here. This will keep it from forming a skin on top. Remember when I was little, my grandma just did not care for a skin on top, and we used to just sort of peel it off and get rid of it. And this keeps that from happening. So close it up, put it in your fridge, chill it. For those of you that have been looking in the background, you may have seen some shortcakes back here. I'm going to make something with our vanilla pudding. It's going to be another video. Check it out and see. It's going to be a delicious dessert, and it's using my favorite thing, mason jars. So anyway, thank you for stopping by and watching my Instant Pot vanilla pudding recipe. This is Nikki D from 5 Dog Farm, and we'll talk to you soon.